Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Are Beautiful. Hashtag B.G.A.B. I am your melanated queen, Lilfoxi, aka creator and founder of Brown Girls Are Beautiful, brand ambassador, all of those things, all of the above. But today's topic that I would like to discuss is about the universe's divine timing. And this topic came to me this morning as I awakened. And sometimes the first thing that I say is thank you to the universe for carrying me through the night, keeping me safe, allowing me to awaken, and allowing me to have my health and strength, to have breath in my body, to have the activity of my lungs, that they're functioning on their own. The fact that I have the activity of all my faculties and limbs, to be of sound mind and sound judgment, to be able to articulate myself well enough to talk, to speak. Some people can't even do those things. Some people are in the hospital bed, on a ventilator, having a machine to breathe for them. So I give thanks and I give gratitude to the universe for sending me here, because I look at myself as being a gift to this world. And so I thank the universe for making me inwardly everything I am and outwardly everything that I am. And those who don't like it or those who are jealous of it, just don't tune in. Don't look at me. Simple as that. In my life, I've dealt with a lot of jealousy. And hopefully I'll be able to touch on these things as I progress forward. But I think that some of my challenges, some of my struggles, and parts of my life can be helpful with others who may be dealing with something similar. So I hope to be an inspiration to those out there who are dealing with some things, and maybe you've never met anyone who's been in your circumstance or your situation. I used to think that I was the only one that dealt with some of the things that I dealt with, until later in life I started hearing stories out there. And sometimes you wish that you had those people around when you're actually going through the situations that you're going through. But a lot of times when we face challenges, we are alone. A lot of times we don't speak about it to other people, or if we try to talk about it to other people, they can't relate, or they brush it off, or they minimize it. Don't allow anyone to minimize your challenge or your experience in life, because you're going through it for a reason. And a lot of times we never know the reason why we go through things. There are so many things in this world that seem so unfair. But I won't get into that right now. I'm going to try to stick to the topic, but it is so easy to go off on a tangent about things. And I wrote some things down in my book here. I want to give a shout out to Miss Audrey Hinds. If you all get a chance, look her up. She's actually on Instagram. She has a book out called Hair with Flair. And she's such an inspiration to me, and I am so grateful to have been able to meet this melanated queen. She's bringing her dreams into fruition, and this morning she posted something on Instagram that was so inspirational to me. I see a lot of myself in her, and I think that is why I resonate with her. And she shared some things with me. Wow, it's amazing how right now I'm pulling her up on my iPad, and the very post that she posted is still here. So I'm just gonna hold this up. I'm pretty sure she doesn't mind if I share this with you all, but I hope you can see this. I don't know if you can or not. I hope you can. There she is. She's looking so vibrant, so amazing. I mean, she really embodies all of the elements of what I consider a queen. Just to give you some insight, she wrote this, and this is how I know I'm on the right path, because the universe sent me a message, and then I saw this on Instagram. So I'm going to speak about the universe's divine timing. She said, last night I ran across an affirmation that I had written over 2 years ago. It read, I am a best-selling author. When I wrote the affirmation, I hadn't written a single word in my book, but I never doubted the power of my words. 18 months later, it rings true. Words matter. How are you speaking to yourself? This post is so powerful, you all, because the same thing happened to me. That's pretty much how I manifested Brown Girls Are Beautiful into fruition. This journey was 2 years ago, and I had not even had a single garment in print in 2017. My first piece of clothing came into production in April 2019. I made a mistake on my last video. April 2019. That was due to my procrastination, but also we get distracted, and sometimes we just don't go after our dreams. So I commend her for going after her dream. She's a melanated queen. She has, a wonderful book called Hair with Flair, and it basically speaks about embracing our hair with flair, because as you all know, you can flat iron it, it's going to do what it wants. So a lot of times you'll see me, I have flyaways all the time. My hair is with flair, okay? And you should see me after I wash it and I allow it to air dry. I've always had a lot of hair. I was born that way, and I mean, it's just all over the place, but I've learned to embrace it. We shouldn't have to cover up who we are. We shouldn't have to cover our hair up with wigs, with weave. It's one thing if you want to have a different look, but we should not have to feel ashamed for who we are. I am all natural now. I used to get relaxers when I was 11 because I had so much hair, and my mama didn't know what to do. I mean, she knew what to do with it, but it just took so much time because we used to use the straightening comb back then. So I used to sit there for a long time. I have pictures. Well, she has pictures of me, just me and my little self and all this hair just all over the place. And she used to sit there and straighten my hair. So thank you, Mama, for always maintaining my hair and washing it and blow drying it and just dealing with it. It was a lot. And I still have my hair today. And I got plenty of stories I could tell you about my hair. It's been through a lot of things. But that's not the topic for today. The topic, like I said, is divine timing. And I think Miss Audrey Hinds is walking in her divine timing. I am so proud of her. And, it's just so exciting because I love that post. So shout out to you, Miss Audrey Hinds. Check her book out, Hair with Flair. Go get it. It is so empowering to the young melanated females out there. I just want to share a story with you about the universe's divine timing. And I had so many things. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I wrote about 26 different things down, but I'm not going to go over all of these. I'll try to speak to some pivotal points in my life. The first time that I recall divine timing, manifestations within the universe, I was about 16 years of age. As we all know, when you're 16, the first thing you want is a car, especially if you take driver's ed. You want to be able to drive to school. You want to just be able to get in the car and go where you want. You have all these places, all these things that you think you're going to do when you get a car, because it's like you're stuck in the house and everybody else is out driving and you want to drive too. So I remember I started working at such an early age. I was 15 when I got my first job at King's Dominion. So if you are aware of King's Dominion, you know it's an amusement park. I didn't have a car back then, so I had to get driven back and forth to work, which was about 40 to 45 minutes from where I lived. Every weekend, that's what I was doing. Saturday and Sunday, that was my schedule. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Anyway, I worked there. I've had so many jobs. I am very employable, y'all. Just know that. I've always been gainfully employed since the age of 15. So as you can tell, I am tired of working. So I'm just going to ask the universe to manifest into fruition that I no longer have to physically work without anything bad happening in my life or anything bad happening to anyone that I care about in my life. After I worked at King's Dominion, I started working at Foot Locker in the mall. and that was seasonal. Then I went to work at Walgreens. While I was at Foot Locker, around that time frame, I just wanted the car so bad. Like, I remember praying about it and stuff like that. And finally, I was telling my sister, and I think I just kind of like gave up. I just let it go. And my daddy was like, well, back then he said, whatever you make, I'll match you. So I was, thinking in my head, well, I'm just going to keep saving my money. Well, one day they ended up coming to get me out of school. Got out of school early. This was like right before my 17th birthday. Guess where we went to? The car dealership. Guess what I came back with? A brand new car. I didn't know I was getting a car that day. I thought we were just going to look. I think he basically already had it planned. So that's what happened for me. And I believe that might have been like maybe a week before I turned 17. I had a brand new car, y'all. Back then, maybe I didn't realize how much of a blessing that was. But now looking back, it was a blessing. I was actually paying for my own car. My daddy put his name on it. Yeah, because, 17, you don't have credit. But I paid for it. Yeah, paid for my own car. And, that was pretty amazing. And I can't even tell you how I ended up not working and getting I had so many jobs. And I was on unemployment, y'all. It's funny because I'm thinking about it. I was on unemployment for a little while. I think I might have been like 17 going into 18. I was using those unemployment checks to pay my car. It was so funny. Oh my gosh, because I'm like, why was I on unemployment? I was living at home, but hey, I got some checks, and that didn't last long because, like I said, I've always been gainfully employed. I don't know what was going on back then. All I do know is when I got the car, I was able to drive to school. I was able to pick my sister up and take her back and forth to school. I was able to go to work, just do the things and go to the store, stuff like that. And it seemed like that summer, oh my goodness, 10:30 every morning, you know who you are. You used to call us, you used to call the house. It was between 10 to 10:30 every morning. If he didn't call at 10, he was calling at 10:30, and we used to go over there, pick him up. We had fun back then. I'm just reminiscing because those were the days when gas was 99 cents, y'all. Oh my goodness, I remember it. I remember going to Wawa. I remember filling up my tank with $10. And we used to be all just, you could get back then, I don't know, we were just riding. We were riding out, y'all. We were just doing whatever. Yeah, those were the carefree days. I mean, we really just were out there. But anyway, so that was my divine timing story with the car. I basically let go. I want to speak about jobs because I have had so many jobs. And as you know, I told you I worked at King's Dominion, Foot Locker, Walgreens. I was working at the bowling alley. It got to the point, at one point, I was in high school with almost 3 jobs. But I had 2 jobs that were overlapping for a period of time. And I ended up letting one go at the bowling alley. I turned in my letter of resignation, and my manager looked at me kind of funny. It was like, but I put it in there. Man, shout out to AMF Bowling Alley. Oh boy, my friend, she used to work there, and I started working there when she told me that she was there. So shout out to her. That was interesting. I left the bowling alley, and then I ended up wanting like more money, and I'm trying to think what my first office job was. I believe it was working at Virginia Power. I think that was my first office job. I can't remember. I went through so many temp agencies. I worked at the corporate office of Hollick Myers, y'all. I was moving through some jobs. What else did I do? This is so interesting. It's a lot of stuff. I worked at a lot of places. I worked at TJ Maxx for a while. And that job is so funny because the universe just has divine timing. Let me tell you. All right, so let me speak about that. All right, no, my first apartment some things were going on with me, and I ended up wanting to move out, and that's a whole different story within itself. And I trust me, you're gonna get that story later. A lot of people don't know that Russell Wilson's father was my attorney back in the day. Shout out to him. May he rest his beautiful soul in peace. And I know he's so proud of Russell Wilson right now, because Harrison Wilson was, like I said, he was an attorney, but I think he used to play football. I was much younger back then. And I did, if everyone is wondering, I did get to meet Russell Wilson very briefly. He probably does not even remember me, y'all. So shout out to, him. But we ended up needing an attorney for me because of some things that I was going through. Okay, and I will definitely be sharing that story probably in a book, on an autobiography later. So like when I said I've been through a lot, you all, I've been through a lot. Thanks to the universe that I don't look like what I've been through. Yeah, so Russell Wilson probably was like, he probably was maybe in middle school back then, and I was I was much older. I was into adulthood, but I was into very young adulthood. So that is when that's the first time I met Russell Wilson, and his father was extremely nice. I just want to share a moment with you about his father. As I told you, his name was Harrison Wilson, and I remember hearing that name, and I was like, who gives their child two first names? But he was so nice. I remember when I used to work at Virginia Power downtown, I ended up running into him. And I think either he got my attention or I got his attention, and he treated me out to lunch. And there was this place where you walk down the steps downtown. It was like in this like basement area. I didn't know anything about it. It was this restaurant, and I guess he was going there for lunch, and he was dressed in like his business attire and everything. He was always very well spoken, very articulate. Of course, he's an attorney, and most attorneys are. And I remember he treated me out to lunch, and we had a conversation, and he was just nice and pleasant to me. I also remember another time being in his office, and because I was always good at English, and that's what I went to school for. I ended up going and getting my degree in English, and I said something, and he said, I mentioned something, and I said the two twins, and he said, you don't use that, that's redundant. And I said, it is, isn't it? So if you use twins, all you have to do is say the word twins, because it's already basically implied that twins come in pairs. There are two of them, but I said the two twins, and I remember him telling me that it was incorrect. So and I was older then, so I can pretty much be well assured if he was that diligent with me, one of his clients, then I know how he probably was with Russell Wilson. So divine timing, you all. He's no longer with us, and I know I'm rambling, but I want to share this because you don't meet a lot of good people like this in the world, and it just meant a lot to me because he was just so pleasant and nice to our family. He came over to the house a few times. We had to meet with him about some legal matters. And that is so interesting, y'all, when we had to go to court, and I beat the charges. I've always been successful in court, so shout out to me and my universe and my spiritual ancestors. What they tried to do and bring into attack against me did not work, and so that is why I always give thanks to the universe. But what I did want to say about him is I ended up seeing him in West Broad, if you're familiar with Richmond, Virginia. I think he was at Red Lobster. For some reason, I had the car out there parked. I think I was waiting for somebody or something. I can't remember. But I was out there, and I ended up seeing him. And this was years ago, because of course he's no longer here. But I remember seeing him years ago, and I believe it was his wife. And I saw them getting out the car, and they were going into the restaurant. And I think I told my mom, yeah, I saw Harrison Wilson. That was the last time I saw him. And I didn't know that his son was even playing for the NFL until my daddy told me, and that was in like 2011, because I think my nephew was just born or something like that. I had no idea. And for some reason, his name, Harrison Wilson, his name came back up. I think what it was, we were watching the Super Bowl or we were watching football, and my daddy said, oh, that's Russell Wilson, that's Harrison Wilson's son. I said, what? I didn't know that. And my daddy was the one that told me that Harrison Wilson had passed away, and I didn't know. I think he had, I believe it was diabetes. And I don't know if maybe he had to have an amputation. My daddy was telling me about it. But see, I didn't know they had contact after all of that. So I was very disappointed to hear that. I had no idea. So shout out to Russell Wilson. I remember seeing him in one of his games go like this. So if you ever see him do that, he's giving a shout out to his father. So I just feel so blessed to still have both of my parents, alive and well and on this earth, because I have met people my age who have had to go through life with losing a mother. I can't even imagine how I would get through without my mother. So I do apologize for this tangent, but I just, the spirit led me there. So the reason, like I said, I had to have an attorney is because I was dealing with a lot of stuff, and I was at the point where I wanted to move. Well, I didn't know how I was going to move back then. At the age of, I was probably like 20 years old. Money and resources, you don't make that much money, especially back then. And I was making decent money, but I mean, once you start factoring into car insurance, a car payment, a cell phone bill, electric, and whatever bills you have, getting your hair done, gas, groceries, things of that nature, and rent, okay? We all know how these corporate jobs are. So back then, I mean, hey, it wasn't rolling in like that. So the universe just so had it that I ended up running into one of my old classmates. We ended up talking. She was ready to move. I was ready to move. We moved in together, and that's how I was able to manifest the first apartment. Now, back up. Let's rewind. I knew what side of town I wanted to live on. That side of town was more expensive. It was the side of town that I think Harrison Wilson used to live on. And so yeah, the cost of living was more over there. But for my mental health and for just everything that I had going on, I just wanted a change in the atmosphere. Well, it just so happened to be that one day I went looking at apartments, and my friend, I think he was with me, and I just was like, I don't know how I'm going to afford to live here, because, back then the apartment had like a lake, and they had the ducks, and it was real nice. And I was like, oh, it would be nice to live here. I was able to live in that apartment. And I remember actually going off on a tangent because I wanted to live in the section with the blue doors, and they were trying to put us in the section with the red doors. And I was like, this is always happening to me. And my older cousin went with us, and they ended up showing her an apartment with the blue doors, and that section to me just seemed better. It was more peaceful, it was more quiet. The other section with the red doors seemed like it was more ratchet, and I'm like, oh, are they discriminating against me because I'm brown skinned, I'm melanated, and my cousin, she's more lighter complected, and my roommate is extremely brighter complected. So it ended up working out. I ended up getting the apartment in the blue door section, and we lived upstairs instead of downstairs. So all of that worked out. We had that apartment for the whole year straight. We ended the lease, and then I ended up moving back home. When I wanted to move out again because of the circumstances that was going on, I was going to move out by myself. I didn't want any more roommates. I didn't know how that was going to happen. I was still very young. I was still going to school. And guess what? Right when I went to look, I got approved for 2 apartments. Both of the ones that I wanted. Had good credit, And I actually got my cousin to help me move, and shout out to him, because they switched my apartment to the 4th floor, and when I got there, it was a lot of steps, and my cousin him and his friend came and helped move me in like it was nothing. Shout out to him. He knows, if he sees this, he knows who he is. So thank you for that. And so I didn't know how I was gonna pay for the apartment by myself. I didn't want any more roommates. And right in time, when I moved into my apartment, guess who called me for a job? Capital One. Y'all, I didn't think I was gonna be able to work at Capital One, because I had tried years ago before I moved out, when I was still living at home. And it's like, you know how these companies are just, I don't know what they're looking for. But yeah, I ended up getting hired directly through the company, through a temp agency, but I had company benefits, and that was just a part-time job. And then I still had my full-time job, and plus I think I was still going to school and about to graduate at that time. So shout out to the universe for that divine timing, because that other paycheck definitely came in handy. Well, Capital One didn't last as long as I wanted it to, but that's okay, because I was experiencing some things with other coworkers, jealousy again. And I guess the universe said it's time for you to leave. So I ended up, that job came to an end. And you know what I told myself? I'm taking this like it's a little mini vacation. I went out and bought 2 bicycles. Most people would be like, oh, what I'm going to do? I need to save money. But I just stayed diligent, and I kept looking for jobs, and I knew something would come to me. And at that point, guess what came along? Bank of America, making more money than what I was making at Capital One. Back then, it was pretty good money for a part-time job. And I got to write out my own schedule, and the hours worked. We had like 3 interviews. When I got to the hiring manager, he basically was like, you interview well, I like you, da 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 da. So I figured I pretty much was doing pretty good with that. So yeah, that worked out, and I ended up getting my job right on time. So everything works in divine timing. Thank you. Thanks, and shout out to the universe, because sometimes it can be very challenging if you don't know how you're going to make it on your own, and you don't really have anybody to fall back on. I've never really had somebody that I've trusted to take care of me. So I've been fortunate and lucky in those respects. It was time to end that lease. Had to move into another apartment. And it's so crazy, because that is another story all in itself. But those are just some ways that the universe has given me divine timing. And I don't want to bore you all with too much more rambling, but I will be doing some more stories about the universe and its divine timing. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And just trust the universe. And I still struggle with this, because there are things that I'm still trying to manifest into my life, and I'm just wondering, why haven't they happened yet? Sometimes we actually hold ourselves back, but it's all going to happen. It's all going to happen. So Brown Girls Are Beautiful, thanks you for listening. I'm wearing the gold and black hoodie today. Hit me up, 7THWONDAR on Instagram if you would like one of these beautiful hoodies. Shout out to my melanated queens out there who represent themselves as true queens, and shout out to the melanated kings out there who represents themselves as true kings. We do have some hoodies coming out for the guys. They're going to be amazing. And there's a whole lot more to come, so look forward to Brown Girls Are Beautiful. We're just getting started. Thank you, and everybody stay blessed.